Boom. Ben Carey, what's up, buddy?
We made it. How are you, man? Finally.
Finally, you and I get to sit down and talk to each other and not under the confines of a 3-minute television interview. I'm looking forward to going long form with you.
I love it, man. I love it. It's spending time with my buddies. It's great.
It's not a bad thing. Your resume. Okay, let me have everything right. We got Savage Garden there, right? Savage Garden.
Correct.
We got Lifehouse.
Correct.
We got Vertical Horizon.
Correct.
We got time with Tal Bachman. We got Elvis Monroe.
Correct.
We've got all your solo stuff.
Say that again.
All of your solo career as well.
Oh, yeah. You played guitar with Brett Young, Joe Nichols, Love and Theft. Been busy, man. Oh, and Billy Myers. I don't know if you remember Billy Myers.
Kiss the Rain, Billy Myers?
Yeah. I played with her too. Yeah, we did
Are
a
you
big tour
serious?
together. Yeah. And then there was a young artist called Kendall Payne. Do you remember that movie Never Been Kissed?
Yes,
Yeah, so when she walks out on the baseball field to talk to the teacher that she'd been tricking, they play this song. That was a young artist who was on Capitol Records called Kendall Payne. We had some fun times. Actually, my bandmate who was in that band with me went on to be in Aerosmith. His name is Buck Johnson.
No
So
kidding.
he was also in Tal Buchman's band with me too. So yeah, it's pretty cool, man. Yeah.
So we have so much to talk about. I'm going to go back to how everything started. But the one thing I never really had a chance to talk to you about was with Savage Garden. How did the whole experience with you getting into Savage Garden? How did that whole thing come to be?
It was kind of a dream come true. Obviously, I was 22 years old. I was touring. Let's rewind a little bit. My first career was a basketball pro. Actually, I don't know if you ever knew that. I played in the pros in Australia. I
Did
used
you
to be
really?
taller. Yeah, I used to be taller. That's what I tell people.
With
But
age, you
yeah,
just
man,
get.
I made the pros when I was 16. I was still in high school.
Did you really?
But yeah, it was kind of weird that I got a letter to try out. 120 invites went out. They were looking for 2 people. I got a letter. I was 16. I ran to my mom and dad. I'm like, look, I got this invite. You know, it was a 2.5-hour drive to the stadium where the tryouts were. My dad's like, yeah, it's crazy. That's grown men. You're just a kid. I'm like, let me try. What's the worst that happens? They knock me down and get back up again. You know, right?
Yes.
So I went down there and I made the first cut, made the second cut. Long story over, I was one of the 2. I made the team, which was incredible and cool, but threw a spanner in the works for my education and my life. You know, geographically speaking, it was a challenge for my parents. You know, we were not that well off, and it was a minimum of a 2-hour to 2.5-hour drive each way to practice 3 to 4 times a week. You know, plus trying to complete my senior year of high school, you know? So my parents being cool went to the Board of Education and said, hey, our son's got an opportunity. We really like him to do this, but it's going to require him to do less schoolwork. So we're asking, can he do 2 senior years and split the workload up over 2 years? So I got to do that. I did 2 senior years of high school, but I was playing basketball in the pros at the time. So I was traveling every weekend with the team, and 4 nights a week I'm going to practice. I'm doing homework in the car, and then I would sleep while my dad would drive, you know? So that was my start. And then, I met who now is the coach of the Australian national team. His name's Brian Goorjian.
Mhm.
And, he was the coach of my favorite team called the Magic. And a friend of ours was the team manager. So he arranged a meeting for me to talk to him about coming to play college ball in America. And I was 18 at the time. And when I met him, he has these kind of famously grueling individual workouts where he'd put you through your paces, and everyone that does that, like, passes out, throws up, you know, like he puts it through you. So I was, I think, the first one that didn't fall to pieces, you know?
Yeah, you made it
You
through.
know? Yeah, I made it through. And he goes, well, instead of going to America, why don't you stay and play for me? And I'll develop you here. And so I got a spot on the team that I had loved as a kid. And I played for him for 2 years. During that time, I tore my knee in half, which was a real bummer. And it made me realize I wasn't invincible, you know?
Mhm.
And my dad and mum had always told me at some point, you're going to have to decide between music and basketball. I told them they were crazy. I'm going to do both, you know? But so I was playing, and I was playing, but eventually, you know, when you're so young and in shape and you do feel invincible, when an injury like that happens that changes your career path,
Hmm.
it's an interesting headspace, you know? So, during my rehab time, I really kind of dug into the guitar and started doing more gigs. And then I got to the point where I was playing 5 nights a week in Melbourne, in Australia, just playing in cover bands and stuff. And then I'd have to get up at like 7 or 8 in the morning and go to practice after getting in at 5 a.m. And that became pretty difficult to deal with. So I decided that music was something that I wanted to follow. I'd already achieved what I set out to do with the basketball. I realized that it was a short-lived career, especially in Australia. It doesn't pay like the US leagues.
Okay.
I was having trouble paying my bills. Like I still had to do extra stuff. You know,
What
I
was
got
the
paid
what's
by
the popular what was the popularity of basketball in Australia at the time compared to like
at
the
the
NBA?
time it was yeah, I mean it was the arena we played in had 16,000 people. You know, so it was a huge arena. There's a funny story with that arena. Full circle, that was my facility where I played basketball. Couple of years later, I came back through with Savage Garden and played my hometown arena, which was
No
yeah,
way.
which is pretty cool, man.
That's a
Pretty cool.
moment right there. Yeah.
And then another crazy story. Sounds like I make this shit up, but
No, I
it's
love it,
true.
man.
But
No, bring it.
but
This is all great
so
stuff.
so when I was 16, I was in the gym at my hometown. I lived in a tiny, tiny country town in the middle of nowhere. And this coach came in and he was watching me work out and just working on myself on my own. And he said, you know, I've heard a lot about you. I've came to see you play. You're on pace for playing at the 2000 Olympics. If you keep this up, you're going to play at the Olympics. Fast forward, the year 2000 comes around. Savage Garden's rolling, and we did play the Olympics. I just didn't play on the basketball team. I played in a band. We played the closing ceremony of the 2000 Olympics in my home country.
Did
So
you
it was
really?
it was crazy, man, because three of my teammates from the Magic were on the Australian team. They used to call me Benny the Bug. So so they came up to the stage, you know, all the athletes from all around the world are in front of us, and we're in the round in the middle of this arena with 140,000 people in it. And they come up in their Australian tracksuits, and they're like, "Let's go, Bug!" You know,
No
and
way.
those are my teammates. So yeah, it was cool to share it with them, even though I wasn't on their team anymore. We were on the same team, you know,
Yeah, but you're
representing
still there at
Australia.
the Olympics playing it when your coach said that. That's I
Yeah,
mean,
it's crazy, man.
it could be a movie. You mentioned you were looking at coming over to the States prior to that and going to
Yeah.
some colleges. Were there certain colleges that were looking to attract you and bring you over? And if so, which were they?
I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it's called Cal Lutheran.
Okay.
Down in they had a really cool program with our coaches in Australia where they would kind of farm some Australian kids out and give them an opportunity to play in the NBA, you know?
Mhm.
And that was sort of the plan. Had that undenying self belief that I could make it to the NBA, you know? And then you know, a life-changing thing happens where you adjust your headspace and then here we are, you know? I'm a much better guitar player at this age than I am at a basketball court,
Do you play?
as I proved last night. You know? Yeah. I'm
Do you
still
play?
playing.
I was gonna say, do you still play basketball?
I do. I play. I'm ashamed to say I play in the 50 and over league now. It's just a bunch of old fat slow guys like me running around, you know. And I had an embarrassing moment about 3 weeks ago. I'm standing in the gym, leaning up against the wall, and I love hoops, you know, and I know the game very well. I'm watching this game play, and I'm like, this is terrible. And then I'm like, oh, that's my league. so, so the realization of where we
I'm here.
just well, yeah, I was but the best thing is I'm playing with a bunch of good dudes. Um, we play in a draft league, so you're on a different team every season. It's relatively competitive and it's a bunch of nice guys. We all play hard, but you know, we're not trying to kill each other and get
Where do you
into
play? You guys
fights.
play out at where do you
Li
guys play at Athletic
Lifetime.
Lifetime?
Lifetime. Yeah,
Green
yeah, yeah.
Valley or
Green Valley. Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
know do you know Bruce Nelson?
I know the name. Actually, I probably know him by face for sure.
Because I know
Yeah.
he's in the same league and everything, and he's like about 50 or so, so he'd probably be in that same league. And I know
Yeah.
he lives for that stuff. It's awesome. Okay, well,
Yeah,
so
man,
you
it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Keeps us active.
yeah, it keeps you in shape too. It keeps you moving around. So we
Yeah,
see
man.
this is the trajectory of where your life was going. Basketball. You had this injury. You now
Yep.
focus on music. How does the Savage Garden door open up for you to step in on that
Well,
spot?
yeah. So I was the reason in my long-winded story, but we actually have time for you to hear the
Yeah,
proper
no, and I
story.
love
So,
this. Yeah, take as long as you
so
want,
we
man.
when I got an offer, I was on my way to practice with the Magic, and I got a phone call from a band, and the name of the band was called Really Joel. So it's the Australian tribute to Billy Joel. And they had a tour going to Indonesia and to Singapore and Hong Kong. And I was the guitar player that they'd seen, and they wanted a young, like, protege guitar player, to come in with the old guys. And I just had a feeling on the way to practice I had to take the job. So when I got to practice, I said to the team, "Sorry guys, but I'm out. Like, I'm going to go chase this other pipe dream." And I realized, my knee's taking longer to rehab. Who knows what's going to happen? This is a really great opportunity for me, and I'll be cheering you on from the sidelines. So I quit effectively. I'm not a quitter, but I had to make a choice.
Hmm.
My parents, my parents were right. You have to, I had to make a choice. So I chose the music, and literally 2 weeks later, the manager took off with all the deposits and all the money and just bailed on us. So I quit my job playing basketball. I had no tour, and I'm in Melbourne going, what do I do?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I took a job as a storeman at a guitar shop, and I would stack boxes and unload trucks and just make sure all the stuff was unpacked and on the walls. And I was 20. I don't know how old was I at this point. I was like 20 years old, you know.
Hmm.
And on my lunch break, I would go out on the floor and I would just talk to customers, and I would end up selling guitars to them, not trying to, just by talking to them and playing guitar for them. And, oh, that's really cool. I want to buy that. I'm like, oh, let me take you to the register. So I give it to the sales guy. And after this went on for a few weeks, the manager came to me. He goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Just hanging out." And he's like, "You're selling more guitars than our guitar manager." And I'm like, "I'm not trying to. I'm sorry." He goes, "No, it's great. Do you want a new job?" I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I want to promote you to be the manager of the guitar section." So he goes, "You got to learn some responsibilities and some book work and stuff. And I want you to, be in charge of the ordering process. You seem to really be passionate and know a lot about the instrument." So I took that job as a 20-year-old. I
Hmm.
went from storeman to manager to having a little team of salesmen underneath me that all had to listen to this kid from the bush. That was, and I was out playing every night. And then there was a couple of really big bands in Australian history. One was called Chocolate Starfish, and one was called Pseudo Echo.
Okay.
And those guys teamed up to make this new, like, super band called Brill, which was a very 60s X kind of kitsch, alternative pop rock stuff, you
Hmm.
know? Um, and they had seen me play, and they offered me the job. So I was this 20-year-old kid touring with 30-year-old veterans. So I kind of learned pretty quick. We threw our stuff in the van and traveled around Australia playing all these shows. And during that process, Savage Garden started to pop in Australia. They started to make some noise. And then, for whatever reason, I got recommended to Daniel, who was one of the two guys in Savage Garden, 3 times in the same day by 3 different people. And he called me and said, "Hey, I heard you might be the guy. Would you be interested in joining the band or auditioning to join the band?" I said, "Yeah, sure. Sounds like a great opportunity." And he goes, "Well, I've got a ticket for you to fly up in 2 days. Can you learn these 6 songs in 2 days?" I said, "Yeah, I'll learn them by tomorrow if you want." Like, he goes, "No, 2 days is cool. I'll see you in Brisbane." So me and my buddy, who I played a lot with, his name was Carl Lewis. He was the drummer in Savage Garden.
Hmm.
We both flew up together, and we auditioned together to be in this band. And I'll never forget, in the suburbs of Brisbane, Australia, in a basement of a house, we rehearsed the Savage Garden songs. And Darren, the singer, walks me out in the driveway and goes, "That sounded great, but can you be a rock star?" was his question to me. And I said, "Give me the gig and I'll show you." Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
And and
yes.
and then we all hugged and had a high five. Great. We both flew back to Melbourne, and then we're both just staring at our phones like, "Did you get a phone call? Did
Yeah.
you get a phone call?" And then we both got a call the same day. "Hey, you're in the band. We'll let you know what's next." And about a week later, Daniel calls me and says, "Make sure you know the record, because the record was already made. Make sure you learn it. Uh, we're leaving in 6 days. Put your stuff in storage. I don't know when you're coming home." And I'm like, "Okay." There was no discussion about money, wages, salary. I mean, I was 22. Who cares? I was just like,
Yeah. But
I got a chance.
this is before
Yeah.
they took off.
Yeah. This was right as they had kind of had a hit in Australia.
Yeah.
They had one
Not in the
trip to
States yet though.
America,
Uh-huh.
and they had a kind of band they threw together that was not good. And they needed their management said, "You need a real band." So we put this band together, and it was the band that was with the band for 4 years, which is the length of their career.
Mhm.
And our first gig, I'll never forget, we flew into India to play the Channel V Awards with Bon Jovi, No Doubt, the Spice Girls, and a Australian artist who was big in the UK. His name's Peter Andre, and us. And we were in the Gandhi Arena, and I remember we played the song "I Want You," as American knows as the Chickaterry Cola song.
Yes,
You know,
massive
yeah,
hit. Uh-huh.
massive hit. That was the song we played, and I can't believe how quickly that moment came and went. Like the adrenaline of being in an arena with 30,000 Indians in front of you,
Mhm.
all chanting and screaming, and Bon Jovi and No Doubt and all that all around. And I was 22. I went from playing basketball to a storeman to a guitar guy to traveling around in a van to holy shit, I'm here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty cool, man.
It's like life happens for you. All these things that were thrown your way. Some people they might, they basketball injury, that they don't pursue music. They might be depressed and down and out for a while. And all these things, life happens for you. Doors kept opening up for you. And it's just
Yeah.
it's a wild story. And I mean, if people watching, I think everyone knows Savage Garden, but you go back to that 4 year run, I think 96 through 2000 or 2001. I mean,
Yeah.
on
We're the
top, one of the biggest
biggest
bands in the
fan.
world.
Man, it was. It's funny. They say the luckier you get, the harder you work, right?
Mhm.
So, I always had that work ethic, and that came from the sports. So I had this undenying belief that I was going to make it. I don't know how, but I was going to make it.
Just knew,
And
right?
I had a little saying that I used to say to myself. It was, the opportunity of a lifetime is only relevant during the lifetime of that opportunity. So be prepared. So I was like, my job right now is to be prepared. So if the phone rings, I don't blow that opportunity, and when that opportunity came, I was able to step into the shoes. And sometimes the moment is bigger than you, or sometimes you can lean into the moment, and
Yeah.
that's what I try to prepare myself for always, still now. Like there's still things that happen. Just last night, one of those moments, like the moment could have swallowed you up. It's either sink or swim. And I like swimming. So I'm like, that's been the mindset. And that's what that all happened so quickly. And there's no way to prepare yourself for, I'm not going to say that kind of fame, because I'm not like a super famous guy where I can't go anywhere. Like people don't even care about those bands anymore. So it's whatever.
I
But,
mean,
but
they
back,
do, but also at the time though
yeah,
too. I mean,
yeah. I mean, at the time
it's
it was
pretty big.
huge, yeah. Like we sold 38 million records, like in 2 albums, which was crazy, 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 crazy.
Well,
And, you know
would say
Go ahead.
I was doing radio here in Vegas at the time, and I remember when you guys came to Las Vegas, and it was probably Thomas and Mack Center. I think you guys were playing sold out. You couldn't get tickets, and we had tickets to give away, and so we did a contest. The show I was working with at the time was was Mark and Mercedes in the morning, and it was, what would you do for Savage Garden tickets? Was the promotion we did. And we had people calling up with these wild ideas what they would do for tickets. And one lady called up and said, I would get the show's name, Mark and Mercedes, tattooed on my butt. And we're like, you would do that for Savage Garden tickets? And she's like, yes. And I was the producer at the time. I'm like, all right. So I had to set up a tattoo shop. I'll never forget this. She shows up and live on the air. There she is. She lies on the table, pulls her pants down, her butt's right there. Tattoo artist. I think it was I Love Mark and Mercedes on one cheek, and the other one was Savage Garden. So somewhere in Las
Oh,
Vegas
man.
is a woman who has Mark and Mercedes and Savage Garden tattooed on her butt because she wanted to see you so bad at the Thomas and
Man,
Mack.
I will offer her tickets to our show tomorrow night if you can find that lady.
Yes.
That would be amazing to
She's
meet
got to
her.
prove it though. We'll be able to tell if it's her or not.
Sure, sure. Well, I'll get her on stage. She can show she can show everyone at the barbershop, mate. That'd be great.
So
She has
how do you then the Savage Garden, and then you go to Lifehouse next? What's your musical journey?
no, actually, so Savage Garden was cranking, and the one thing I didn't have in Savage Garden was creativity. You know, my job was to be the lead guitar player, to be the rock star guy, you know? Daniel, the other member of Savage Garden, he played guitar a little bit, but he was more of a keyboard and a studio guy. So he wasn't really comfortable with being on those big stages. He didn't really like it, to be honest. He wasn't the guy that craved attention. He's happy being anonymous guy, making music and making his millions of dollars, you know? Um, Sweetheart of a man, owe him my whole life, you know, the opportunity that he gave me, um, believing in a young kid. You know, so I have a really amazing respect for what he did, you know, and what he was able the songs he was able to write with Darren changed people's lives, you know. Um, During that process, you know, not to get off topic, but I would be writing songs on the road because I had a lot of creativity and stuff, and that's always been a burning desire. And obviously as an artist, you'd love people to hear your story instead of me telling other people's stories, you know? And I ended up signing a record deal with a buddy from Australia. We met in a guitar shop called Soundworks when we were 16. And when we were about sort of, you know, maybe 20, maybe 22, 23 at this stage, we signed a $1.2 million deal with Hollywood Records, with Rob Cavallo, who produced the Goo Goo Dolls and Green Day and all that stuff. We had this attorney, his name's Alan Mintz. He's since passed, but he was Van Halen's attorney. He got Nirvana signed. Like, he was a
Wow.
pretty heavyweight in the industry. I don't know how we ended up with him, but we did. Um, we believed in our ability to play live, which was something that seemed to be lacking in a lot of artists. Go figure, right? You know? And a lot of them were manufactured pop artists, and they couldn't really play and sing, you know? So the Savage Garden thing opened all the doors. You know, we were the biggest thing since sliced bread, and then one of the members, me, wanted to explore something else. So we took a bunch of meetings in LA, and I flew the boys over here, and we walked into offices with our acoustic guitars and said, "Here's our demo, but what song do you want to hear? We'll just play it for you right now," right in front of them. And we all sang. So it was like three-part harmonies, acoustic guitars, and Rob Cavallo was like, nobody's done this
Yeah.
since the Eagles, you know, like, this is crazy. Let me go upstairs to Bob's office. Dad, you know, Bob Cavallo from Atlas Third Rail, like one of the biggest names in music, you know. Uh, we went up, we played for Dad, and then he came down and said, "I don't want you going to other labels. I want to stop all these meetings. We want you here. Here's the contract right now." So we said, you know, I mean, the money was right. The in theory, the position was right because we were going to work with an amazing producer. So for us, we just wanted to work with people that were going to develop us and knew better than we did, you know?
Mhm.
That process went south pretty quick. You know, during the making of the record, the guys just never showed up. Like Rob just vanished with the Goo Goo Dolls or someone more important. You know how Hollywood is, you know? Always look at, yeah. So we were these Australian kids with this record deal, trying to figure out how to make a record in America on our own. I was in between Savage Garden tours at the time, so I was home just working on it, and then, I mean, they sent us to record 5 songs with the LA Philharmonic Orchestra with David Campbell, which is Beck's dad, arranging and conducting.
Nah.
It cost $120,000 for the day, and the producer didn't even show up. So we ended up running the session ourselves. Like, these 2 kids, me and my buddy Aaron, were 24 and 25 years old trying to deal with these legends, and it was a great experience, but it was also massively overwhelming, like,
Yeah, it seems the way you had
kinda
such
shocking, you know?
this massive opportunity too, and it just that
Yeah.
that direction you guys needed, they just kind of bailed
Yeah.
on you guys.
Yeah, totally bailed. So, unfortunately or fortunately, depends on how you look at it, I'm Australian, and Australians are pretty direct.
Mhm.
So this wasn't okay with me when someone doesn't keep their word. So I wasn't gonna tell him on the phone, I had to tell him to his face. So we set a meeting, and Aaron and I went into his office, and we told him, "This is not okay. This is not what we agreed upon, and you need to do a better job." So these 2 kids are telling this giant record producer
Yeah.
that this is not okay. Obviously, that didn't go well for us. So we actually got dropped the next day from the label.
Really?
Yeah, but the
And
best
that
part was
$1.2 million contract goes with it?
well, here's the thing, they breached contract. So ultimately, we got to keep the money, we got to keep all the gear, we got to own the masters, and we just walked away, and we're like, "All right, well, what do we do now?"
Yeah.
So we financed our own development until the money ran out, and, on a $1.2 million deal, you don't have a stack of cash. It's all allocated to different things like
Okay.
marketing,
Okay.
recording budgets, living budgets. So we were able to keep the recording budget and the living budget. All the marketing and all the other things we never got to see. I mean, it was still a substantial sum, maybe 2 or 300,000 that
Great.
was in a kitty that, but we had 5 people to keep alive, and a house in the Hollywood Hills that was all the money in the world a month to rent. We turned the house into a studio instead of paying exorbitant studio rates, which elongated the process for us and made the money go further.
Mhm.
And when we ran out of money, we started selling gear to keep going. We sell pieces of studio gear as it went. And then, during that process too, like Tal Buckman happened for me, and I did that tour, and that was very short lived. He had one song, it blew up.
It was
There
a
was some
massive hit. I remember
massive
playing it
hit,
for the
and then
first time.
yeah, and still such a great song, people sing along to. Um, the
Well, I
way
do
it
want to point
was
out too, because
eh
this is something, this is the internet was a thing back then. But we weren't Googling stuff and on our phones back then. And I'll never forget playing that song. It was probably for about a week or two, and someone calling up and saying, "Do you know who his dad is?" And we're like, "No." And then learning that's Tal Bachman from Bachman Turner
Mhm.
Overdrive. His
Yeah,
son, like,
yeah,
whoa, mind blown on that.
right. So me and Buck, the keyboard player I was telling you about earlier that's in Aerosmith,
Mhm.
we were in Tal Buckman's band, and then for whatever reason, they stopped paying us our retainers to just be in that band. And how are you supposed to live as a young musician? And they're like, "Well, you just have to wait." We're like, "No, we're not gonna wait." So that's when Buck and I took the tour with Kendall Payne.
Okay.
So what happened was they got booked on The Tonight Show on Jay Leno, and they expected us to fly back at our own cost and do the show. And we're like, "Until you back pay us what you owe us, we're not gonna do that."
Mhm.
And, they said, "All right, we'll just get somebody else." We're like, "Okay, good luck." So they did get other people to do the gig, and that one song was the first and only time he ever played on TV because it was a disaster, because he didn't have the band that was his band, and it was thrown together in 24 hours, and
The performance itself was bad on the Tonight Show.
yeah, and it was over in a day. Like, that whole record over after that performance. Like, it's such a cutthroat business.
And also
Such
too
a
back
great
then too,
song,
being it's on the
such a
Tonight
great
Show though, that's a big
it's a
moment.
big
That's a big
that
moment. A lot of eyes on you too at that moment.
man, one of those moments that can be bigger than you real
Mhm.
easy. And it doesn't matter. I think I played the Tonight Show 17 times now.
Have you
And
really?
yeah, and and every time it still stresses you out. Like, doesn't matter how prepared you think you are for it. It's just a weird it's so cold in there, and you're on stage, and it's super sterile, and there's a screen, and then there's all the cameras, and you have, like, 3 minutes to either sink or swim. And
Oh.
and it's early in the morning, which is not great for rock and roll, and your hands are freezing, and you're nervous, and the band is like, "All right," and then you gotta play, like, the best performance of your life
Mhm.
under these conditions. So the screen rises, you see the audience, you see Jay Leno, and they go, Action," and bring it bring it or go home, man, you know? So, every time that was one of those things where, like, it's exciting, but it's also I think maybe part of the way, it's the
Well, I
stress.
wanna get back to this story where we're going
Yeah,
with Tal Bachman and Lifehouse, but
yeah,
while we're here, though, on Tonight Show, you've done
yeah,
Tonight Show with Leno. Did you do it with Conan or just
yep,
Leno? You
yeah,
did it with
no, no,
Conan?
yeah, yeah, that was cool. Yep, we did that with Lifehouse later on. So the early days, Savage Garden and Lifehouse, and then the change of guard happened, so we got to do that as well. Yeah, it was pretty cool, man.
Ah, that's a trip, man.
Yeah.
That's a
And we did
select
all
group
the
of
we did all
people.
the TV. We did, like, the Good Morning Americas, we did Regis and Kelly, Regis and Kathy back in the day,
Yeah, oh, yeah,
and
uh-huh.
then we did Carson Daly's show, we did Kimmel, we did the only one we never got to crack in my career was Saturday Night Live. I never got to do SNL, For whatever reason, the bands I was in being like, Lifehouse started as an alternative rock band, but became a pop hit. So we were a little too pop for SNL at the point. They were a little bit more Rolling Stone cool,
Yeah.
So we unfortunately that's the only one I didn't really get to do, you know?
Did you do, Letterman?
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah. It's kind of becomes a blur. I'm pretty
I'm
sure we
sure it
did.
does, I'm
Yeah.
sure it does, but
Yeah.
from an outsider
Yeah.
looking in, it's so cool, to
Uh,
they're all
and
legends, and you were a part of those shows at some point.
that's crazy. I was saying to who was I telling? I was telling my ex-wife actually. We're very, very good friends, and we were having a long conversation uh about our son the other day, and I was telling her that we were discussing a mutual acquaintance and someone that was successful and maybe isn't as successful anymore. And I shared with her, I said, I'm a little bit ashamed to say, but I don't mind saying it to maybe it could resonate with someone and help their headspace. But I never ever thought like, I thought Lifehouse was a band that I would be in forever. Like, it had the staying power, the songs were good enough to stand the test of time. We were a fabulous live band, and we got on pretty well. There wasn't really any issues. So I never thought I wouldn't be in that band. Like, I thought I'd be 70 and playing the Delaware State Fair to other 70-year-olds that wanna hear "Hang in My Moment," you know? Like, I just thought that was the way it was gonna be. I guess you kinda take it for granted when you're in the middle of it sometimes, like, I remember the first Savage Garden show of the world tour, we were playing to, like, 3,000 people, and 2 hours before the show, I'm dressed and I'm warming up and stressing out, "Oh my god, there's 3,000 people. This is gonna be, like, crazy. I hope our preparation is ready." To maybe a year or 2 down the road, we're like, it's only a small one tonight, only 10,000 people tonight. I should get off the bus. We're on in 20 minutes." Probably like your attitude changes
Yeah.
and sometimes, things it gets sideways, like, and I think that's a lot of the problem with entertainers, not just musicians. I think if you start believing the instead of keeping it about the craft, it can swallow you up and spit you out, do weird things. So I'm lucky enough. I got really great friends and family that kept me very grounded and focused. And if any time the head got a little too big, there was plenty of people there to smack me in the air and be like, "What are you doing, dude? That's not you." You know. So I was able to keep it under control and keep it about what I really love, and that's being on stage playing music.
Now we're gonna start bouncing all over the place now because now you're taking me in different directions, and I want so many questions to get to. Let's talk about the barbershop and
Yeah.
what you do there because that itself is just, I mean, such an amazing setup you guys have there. It's over at the Cosmopolitan. How long have you guys been doing that now?
We're
Two
6
years?
years in, just a little over 6
2 years?
years.
6 years?
6 years, yeah.
6 years?
That yeah, we've been there for 6 years. My friend, Ryan Labby and, J-Rock, brought me the project with another guy, Andy Massey, who's a pretty big name in Las Vegas and in the entertainment space. They had this idea, "Hey, we want to build this venue, and it's going to be this, and we think you're the guy to bring your touches to it." And I was like, "Okay, cool. It sounds interesting." And just for the listeners, prior to that, I had quit touring and being in bands and stuff like that. So I'd moved to Vegas in, I think it was like 2014, 2013. I had started a family. I didn't want to be on a tour bus on an airplane, and I was trying to find other ways to make a living without having to travel. So I started an agency, like booking and curating music and trying to bring some honesty and transparency to this crazy crooked town, you know? And we were making headway. That's how, I met these guys. I actually met these guys back when I was in Lifehouse, 2006. I became friends with J-Rock. And many years later, we're building this venue and I meet Andy and he's a cool guy and I love the concept. So I say yes. And 6 years later, we're to elbows every night. I mean, we played with Sammy Hagar last night. He came and sang with me, and we've had Bruno Mars, we've had Macy Gray, we've had Anderson Park, we've had Zach Brown, we've had Rod Stewart, we had Sammy Hagar.
So
It,
wait,
it,
last night Hagar just did you know he was coming last night, or he was just there in the crowd?
at 11 p.m. the night before, I found out. Like I obviously being part of the management team, I knew it was well, we were trying to make it happen,
Yeah,
but I didn't know it was gonna happen. I didn't know if he was gonna sing, so it was one of those things where we had to be ready for the moment, whether it came or whether it didn't.
that
So,
preparation ready to go. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
so his guy texted me at 11 and said, "Hey, we're gonna do a song. It's this song." I'm like, "Amazing." He's like, "Do you know it?" I'm like, "Yep." So 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 I hang out and text the band. I was like, "Boys, prepare this song. I'll see you at sound check."
What song
So
was it?
Rock Candy, an old
Okay.
Montrose song, which was Sammy's first big band with Ronnie Montrose back in the '70s, I think.
Okay.
And and I'm a massive, massive, massive Sammy Hagar fan. Like Van Halen 5150 for me was a record that changed my life. In 1986, I went to a Seventh-day Adventist primary school. I brought that cassette tape to show and tell, and I got sent to the principal's office for listening to devil's music.
Did
All
you
right.
really?
So yeah. Yeah. And I told Sammy this story when we got to kind of become friends. And when he first performed with me at Caspian's, another one of my venues over at the Caesar's Palace, in January, it was actually on my 50th birthday. Sammy was our guest and we were doing the grand opening on my birthday. So when they told me that the artist they locked in to play with me was Sammy, I literally cried. I was just like, man, like my 11-year-old self can't even imagine what this is going to be like, you
Right?
know?
That's yeah.
So it was pretty cool, man. Yeah.
I love those moments when you stop and look back like on your childhood and be like, wow, 10 year
Yeah.
old, 10-year
Those
old.
songs that changed my life and pictures on my wall. And now he's standing next to me on stage. And then, it's funny because I became friends with his son many, many years ago through the motorsport stuff. Like he's a car guy. I'm a car guy. And, we had met, we became friends. And I'm like, one day I'm going to get to meet your dad. And he goes, it'll happen one day. But we had a genuine friendship. And then this came about organically, completely nothing to do with his son. And then I got to meet Sammy. Sammy called me. We talked for a while and he's like, "Wait, like you know my boy?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're good friends." He goes, "How have we not met? You know all these people that I'm friends with." I'm like, "I'm the most unlucky like super fan, I guess." So and I told him how important it was for me to play with him. Like, so we played like 7 songs that night. It was cool. Last night we played 2. We were only supposed to play 1, but he had such a good time. He's like, "You want to do another song?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" So we played "Why Can't This Be Love," a Van Halen song, which
And
was
was that on
I'll share. I'll share.
5150?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and that was in 1986. That was their first number one, and it was a song Sammy wrote with Eddie, and, that's why I had to play that. I was like, "Can we do this? I know it's a keyboard song, but I got it." And he's like, "If you know it, let's do it." So we
Oh
did it.
my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah,
And
so we were
that's a song that
prepared.
stands the test of time too, by the way. That song comes on the radio
Amazing.
now. You
Yep.
immediately like it just and you
You wanna
think
turn it
80s.
up.
You do, and you
Yeah,
say
yeah,
'86 that was? Like, no, this came out 10 years ago. What
yeah,
a
yeah.
moment for you, man.
That was pretty cool, man. Pretty
Well,
cool.
I remember, Sammy Hagar, this was probably 3 years ago, maybe, he had, he's got his tequila and rum.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
had a new,
yeah.
canned drink that he was promoting, and so I got to go interview him at Cabo Wabo,
Oh,
and
better.
it was
Yeah,
upstairs in, like, this banquet hall, and it was just
yeah.
me and Sammy, and he had a bunch of the drinks there, and we started taste testing, and next thing you know, it's like we're doing an interview, but we're having a good time. I had the same moment, like, I'm drinking with Sammy Hagar as I'm
Right.
recording a television interview. This is just,
Isn't it?
10-year-old me would be like,
Yeah.
"What are you doing?"
Right, right. And those are the moments we live for.
Yeah.
It's and you dream about, but when it happens, it's like you take it in stride because you're amazing at what you do and you do it with class and you recognize for that. And now look who you get to do it with. You know what I mean? It's so last night for me, I felt really good about it because I knew we did the work. The proof is in the pudding. We did the work. We were ready. It was going to happen or it wasn't going to happen. It's out of my control. It happened. We played one song, and his guy come up and goes, "Sammy wants to get up right now." I'm like, "Okay, Al, roll, kick into it." So Al starts playing the beat to Rock Candy, and I'm like, "Maybe your friend will sing it with us." And then Sammy walks up. Bryce is like, "Hey, man,
No.
yeah." Yeah, man, it was amazing, dude. And his son Aaron was here as well,
Oh, was he?
so I got to see him and his wife, and it was great. It was short, but really special. We 2 songs and life-changing, like bucket list, very
Th
cool.
that's those moments happen, I feel like it happened inside that club all the time. I always feel,
Yeah,
because
it's
my
like
hours I don't get to, I love to go, but it's just because I get up at 2:30 in the morning, but I'll wake up and scrolling through social media, and I'll see it was I'll see the Rod Stewart's. I didn't see the Sammy
yeah.
Hagar thing yet, but you see all these things like, "Wow, you guys are doing incredible things."
Man, it's been such a blessing that room to the music community. You know, we, um, we have a really strong culture in the barbershop. I'm really proud of that. The players we have, I think, are exceptional and the best in town. And we have a really cool culture where we're all there supporting each other. Like, you have to have a healthy ego to do this job. I know 100% what I'm good at. I also know what I'm not good at. And I also know in my team, the people that I have playing in the venue, we all have to be like-minded. Like, be healthy and be not cocky about what you do. Know that you're good at it, but it's not a competition. We're there to support each other. So that was one of my missions coming to Vegas was develop this music community of people that we all love the same stuff and we all cheer each other on. And it's not like a sports game. Like if I score more buckets than you, I'm better than you. Sorry, I beat you. I beat you. If I play more notes than you, it doesn't make me better. It just makes me different. So programming that room, coming up with these really cool bands and ideas and concepts that now there's a line out the door every night and seeing that come to fruition. Now we're doing that over at Caesars at Caspian's. It's another speakeasy, same idea, slightly different vibe. And it's a set of new challenges now to make it successful over there.
Well, guess what? Our hour is up, my friend. My gosh, I need to have you back on because like there's so much more to talk to you
We gotta
about.
dive in, man. We gotta get to all
Seriously,
the fun stuff.
I know. We just we
Yeah.
just we touched the tip of the surface there, man. We gotta go to do this again. This was awesome, dude. I
Yeah,
appreciate you,
man.
Ben, coming on the show and sharing just, a little bit of your story. So much more to talk to you about. You have to come on and do it again, my friend.
I would love to, man. Thank you for having me.
All right, Ben Carey, thank you, buddy. I'll
Cheers,
see you
brother.
soon. See you now.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
man.
for watching.
See you later.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.